Lorraine, and welcome to This Week in Your Daily Star Trek News. Today is Sunday, May 8th, 2022. Coming up on the show today, two members of our extended Star Trek family have sadly passed away, and I'll be telling you about them. Paramount has finally announced release dates for Paramount Plus in the UK and Ireland and other places around the globe coming up this summer. And the reviews are in for Star Trek. My name is Alison Pitt, and today's show is supported by Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/daily Star Trek news. Now, this is the section of the show that I ask if you're on the podcast, come join us on YouTube. So hello to all the people in the YouTube live chat. And if you haven't come over and watched the live show, then please do, because it's a tremendous amount of fun and everyone in the chat is wonderful. Anyway, the other thing that I want to remind you of is that everything that I talk about on the show today is also available on dailystartreknews.com. We've got all the week's stories, plus some extra stuff, including trivia and history and the week's events listing. And you can also get all of that delivered direct to you every day, every weekday through the Daily Star Trek newsletter. And that's at dailystartreknews.com/contact. Now, that stuff out of the way, we'll get into this week's poll. And of course, at the end of the show, we will look at the poll results, and we'll also do a little bit of show and tell. If you are here with me live on YouTube, also stick around after the main show. We'll to the end. Maybe we'll talk about that. Anyway, I promised you a poll, and here it is. This week's poll is slightly Picard themed. What would be the best part about being a Borg? Because I know they're usually the bad guys, but there's got to be, there's some advantages. So your choices are you never run out of friends. Also, mandatory sleep, built-in 5G, and the absolute best flash mobs in the galaxy. So those are your choices. What's the best part of being a Borg? Reminder, if you're watching here live on YouTube, there's a poll in the chat. If you've missed it, if you're listening to this back later, you can also participate in the poll over on Twitter. That's running for 24 hours, so you can make your voice heard over there. And at the end of the show today, we'll compare and contrast and see what people are thinking about that. So yeah, that's later on in the show, though. It's time for us to get started with this week's news, and sadly, we are starting on a bit of a downer again this week. Two members of our extended Star Trek family have sadly passed away recently, and so I would like to tell you about them. And a big thanks to David Powell, who wrote their obituaries this week. Those are, of course, available on dailystartreknews.com. So the first person is Neal Adams, who was a comic book writer, an artist, and via The Hollywood Reporter earlier this week. He passed away on Thursday, April 28th at the age of 80. A little bit more about Neal Adams. He got his start back in the late 1950s drawing Archie comics. He had tried to land a gig with DC, but it didn't work. He later ended up at DC drawing covers and stories, and eventually began drawing Batman. Now, in the 1970s, Peter Pan Records, we've talked about them on the show before. Peter Pan Records produced a series of Star Trek audio stories, which were accompanied by read-along comic books. Adams was the artist and co-author on The Time Stealer, which was one in that series. Now, in addition to his actual comic artistry, he also defended the rights of comic artists to their work. Josh Adams said, "My father was a force. His career was defined by unparalleled artistic talent and an unwavering character that drove him to constantly fight for his peers and those in need. He would become known in the comics industry as one of the most influential creators of all time and a champion of social and creators' rights. When he saw a problem, he wouldn't hesitate. What would become tales told and retold of the fights he fought were born out of my father simply seeing something wrong as he walked through the halls of Marvel or DC and deciding to do something about it right then and there." Among Adams' many awards, the most recent were inductions into the Eisner Awards Will Eisner Comic Book Hall of Fame in 1998, the Harvey Awards Jack Kirby Hall of Fame in 1999, and the Inkwell Awards Joe Sinnott Hall of Fame in 2019. And there's more about the life and career of Neal Adams over in his obituary on The Hollywood Reporter. I would highly recommend that you go and check it out. Additionally, you can actually listen to the Time Stealer and see some of that artwork that he did for the Peter Pan Records Star Trek series on YouTube. I'll make sure to leave a link below that you can go and check that out for yourself. The next person today is David Birney, who is best known as an actor on St. Elsewhere, but he was also a guest actor on Star Trek Deep Space Nine. And I'm laughing because he got to take a real dig at the Klingons, which was quite enjoyable. Now, he might be best known for his role as the cab driver Bernie Steinberg on Bridget Loves Bernie and as Dr. Ben Samuels on St. Elsewhere. But of course, he was also that guest star on Star Trek Deep Space Nine. David Birney passed away last Wednesday, April 27th, after a long battle with Alzheimer's. Another theater stint, he appeared in 1967 in The Comedy of Errors, King John, and Titus Andronicus in the New York Shakespeare Festival. His characters, from Frank Serpico to John Adams to Antonio Salieri, and then on to Latente, the Romulan senator in the Star Trek Deep Space Nine Season 6 episode, Tears of the Prophets. Now, in that episode, Birney as Latente represents the Romulan Star Empire at a meeting of the Federation Alliance on Deep Space Nine. He manages to upset General Martok, not surprisingly, by saying, "Notice the primitive rage in his eye, the uncontrolled brutality. Klingons can be quite entertaining, don't you agree? I think every Romulan zoo should have a pair." And this before was recognized with Washington's Shakespeare Theater's Millennium Award. Again, there's more information on his life and career over at The Hollywood Reporter. Please join me and all of us here at Daily Star Trek News to sending condolences to the families of Neal Adams and David Birney. Right. Moving on to announce the launch date for the Paramount Plus app in the UK and Ireland, and given us some more details on what's to come after that. So there was a press release earlier this week, and they've said that Paramount Plus as the app is scheduled to launch in the UK and Ireland on June 22nd of this year, and some additional rollouts as well. They actually, in the press release, put pricing information for the UK. There's going to be a 7-day trial. Then the service is available for $6.99 a month or £69.90 for the full year. They did not include Irish pricing. So I don't know why they didn't do that, but they didn't. Some other places that they're rolling out throughout the rest of the year. They've said South Korea will be available in June through a partnership with CJENM. We've told you about those guys before. They're also planning to move into the Indian market in 2023. And of course, they're launching on the Sky Plus platform later this year, and that applies to the UK, Ireland, Italy, Germany, and Austria. Selected subscribers can get it at no cost, or it's a bolt-on, I think. Maria Kravchuk, who is president of the streaming services, will broaden the range of choice available to our audiences in the UK and Ireland. Paramount Plus will be a one-stop destination for Paramount's biggest brands, where fans of all ages can find exclusive, original premium content, global hits, and discover a world of favorites from Paramount's vast catalog. So moving at a snail's pace, but there is some movement there for Paramount Plus. Just a reminder as well, Pluto TV is actually already available in most of those markets. I don't believe the new series are on there, but they do have some Star Trek content. So I would say that. In addition to that statement from Paramount Global, Star Trek on Paramount Plus, the social media account, also put out a Paramount Plus in the United States, Latin America, Australia, and in the UK and South Korea beginning in June 2022, and in Germany, France, and Italy by the end of the year. The series details there. I understand that's still going to leave quite a lot of the market without Star Trek Strange New Worlds, but we are getting there. Now, of Star Trek Strange New Worlds, for those of you who have seen the premiere episode, but it's been largely met with really, really wonderful reviews, um, which is amazing. A personal aside, I kind of keep an eye on social media to watch what people are saying about various things, and pretty much without fail, every episode of any Star Trek that comes out is met with roughly equal love it and hate it. I don't know why the people that hate it, I don't know why they keep watching, but whatever. It's been really interesting over the past few days to see that. I haven't really observed that with Strange New Worlds. The worst. This is just my observation, of course, but the worst that I've seen is the fight between the people who say finally it's a return to Star Trek, and the other people who have going Star Trek's been here the whole time. But that's about the worst kind of disagreement. Largely speaking, most people seem to agree. Um, I would point to Rotten Tomatoes, which of course is the paragon of all critic whatever. Star Trek Strange New Worlds is way certified fresh. According to critics ratings, 100% of the 31 critics ratings on Rotten Tomatoes have certified it as fresh. Now, as a data person, I must say that that is a slightly misleading statistic, because the critics ratings are judged between fresh and not fresh, and fresh actually is I believe 65% or above. So 100% of the 31 reviews have been 65% favorable or above, if that makes sense. So it's not that everyone has rated it a 10 out of 10, it's that everybody has rated it above a 6.5 out of 10. The average rating actually amongst critics for the first episode of Strange New Worlds was 8.5 out of 10, which is still astonishingly high, especially for a new Star Trek series. The audience score is slightly different. It's actually slightly higher. So even though the audience score only comes out at 88% currently, obviously that's subject to change, with 205 ratings, the average rating was 4.4 out of 5, which translates to an average of 88% overall. So it looks like the audience is scoring it worse, but actually they're scoring it slightly better than the critics. So long story short, folks love Strange New Worlds. I've seen it. I also love it. And yeah, go and watch it if you haven't already. And just a reminder for those who have to wait until June 22nd, there are a few of you out there. The hashtag everyone seems to be using is hashtag Strange New Worlds. I was using hashtag Star Trek Strange New Worlds. Most people are saying hashtag Strange New Worlds. I would say that because of the way that the show is structured, I think people are going to feel less betrayed by spoilers, because this is my opinion, because it's episodic. So if you get a spoiler for this week's episode, it's not going to affect the overall arc, if that makes sense. But do remember to mute your hashtags and avoid some of those spoilery sites if that is a concern for you, because people will be talking. Anyway. Oh, I did also want to mention, there's a really good interview. So the press has been like sort of all over all of the stars and producers and stuff of Strange New Worlds. There's been lots of interviews with the cast, doing general promotional stuff. But there was one interview that I did want to draw your attention to with CNN Entertainment. The reason I wanted to draw your attention to it is because it's got a breadth of people that it talked to. So it talked to Roddenberry, as you know, as Gene's son, Akiva Goldsman, executive producer, and Ben Robinson, who's the Star Trek expert at Eagle Moss and Hero Collector. So this article spoke to all three of those people, and so you get a really interesting breadth of the view on it. My favorite quote, honestly, is from Rod, who said, "I understand that this is just a TV show, but it inspires countless people to live better lives." And I think that's a sentiment that a lot of us share. We know it's a television show, but we also know it's more than that. Anyway, I'll leave a link to that down below, of course. And following on from the Strange New World stuff, I did want to draw your attention. It was kind of a blink and you'll miss it, but if you have a smartphone of any kind, the Star Trek on Paramount Plus Twitter account, and they might have done this on too, I'm not sure. They shared some phone wallpapers, and they're beautiful. They're based on the character posters that we've seen before that has like the logo and the character name and Paramount Plus and whatever, except that they don't have any of the stuff. They just have the character and the background, and they're absolutely beautiful. I'll show you. I don't have like a screen that's not like telling on myself, but I put there's one for each of the main crew plus the Enterprise, because of course she's a main character, and they're lovely. If you have a favorite character, you can put that on the back of your on your lock screen, and it's lovely. Anyway, I will leave a link that you can go to and download all of those and just show off a little bit of fandom on your phone. Right, and finally today, I wanted to follow up. Last week we talked about, I teased briefly that I'd done an interview with Jesse Heinig, who's a senior game developer at Star Trek Online. That came out this week on Thursday, and if you haven't had a chance to read it, please do. As you guys know, I'm a huge fan of Star Trek Online and the game and the work that they do, and Jesse has a lot of really good insight into what goes on at the game, because he's been doing it for 12 years. He's basically been there since the beginning. So in the interview, we talked about sort of what's his day-to-day. We talked about how having voice actors like from the actual TV show, how that changes the production of the game. And then we also talked a little bit sort of philosophically about Star Trek, because if you follow Jesse Heinig on Twitter, he's kind of known for his lengthy Twitter threads about a number of topics: game development, philosophy, politics, etc. And so we talk a little bit about the philosophy of Star Trek, and how that plays out in something like Star Trek Online. So it's a really good article that came out on Thursday, and of course I'll link that below as well, and I hope you guys read it. And also play Star Trek Online if you have the time, if you have the computer, and you have any interest at all. Please go and play it. It's a wonderful game, and it's a great way to experience the Star Trek universe for yourself. I will never get over the sound of Earth Space Dock ever. Anyway, so that is it for the big news this week. Coming up shortly, I will get into some special Mother's Day themed show and tell, and also check out the poll results. But before I do that, I do want to remind you that everything we do here, from the website to the newsletter to this show right here, is supported by people like you through Patreon. You can find out more about how to support us at patreon.com/Daily Star Trek News. We have options from $1 a month. And if you sign up to support us for a whole year, you get a discount that makes it work out to about $10 a year. Your support goes a really long way, and we really appreciate it here at Daily Star Trek News. So thank you. Right, so show and tell next. Don't forget the poll. The poll is, what would be the best part about being a Borg? Uh, Feel free to write something in if you want. I think there's plenty of really good things. Then again, I think there's plenty of good things about being a zombie too, but that's a discussion for another time. But yeah, I want to know what you guys think would be the best part of being a Borg. Yeah. All right. So show and tell this week. Right. Hold up. If you are still watching me, can you just like say hey in the chat? My Google just went weird on me, so hopefully that's not a problem. Anyway, let's carry on. Right, so today is Mother's Day. Thank you. Thank you guys. Thank you so much. I had this error message on my screen that I was like, oh man, have I been talking to myself for like 20 minutes? That is always, by the way, a total fear, because I have not figured out how to do all the fancy streaming stuff yet. And so, and I can't see the stream when I'm talking to you guys. So that's always a huge fear of mine. Anyway, thank you for giving me that feedback. Anyway, yeah, so today is Mother's Day, and here in the United States, of course, if you are in other places around the world, it is not. In the UK, for instance, they celebrate Mothering Sunday, and that's before Easter. So totally different thing. But I am very fortunate to have a wonderful, loving boyfriend and a wonderful, loving pair of children who went and got me a Star Trek themed gift for Mother's Day, and it was very sweet. And I want to show you guys because I love them. So we have talked many, many times on this show about my love of novelty socks because I feel like if you're going to wear socks, they might as well be fun. I actually have sock reviews for Star Trek socks on this channel, and I know that I've done Star Trek socks as like as a show and tell before. So anyway, whatever, it's my thing. Look at what they got me. Look at them. Brand new Spocks. Brand new Spocks, and on the back, they say, oh, you can't really see. They say live long and prosper. So cool. Apparently, part of the reason that these ended up getting chosen was because my eldest child, who is 16, wanted to see what Spock's face would look like stretched out. Because they're long, they're sort of mid calf. So we're gonna do this. We're gonna try it out. Okay. So there's Spock, and there's Spock all stretched out. There we go. No, I'm not gonna put them on my legs or anything like that, but there you go. Anyway, they're nice and stretchy. Novelty socks. Wonderful. Good job, John Van Sitters, for approving so many novelty Star Trek socks. Anyway, that's it. Happy Mother's Day to all of the mothers out there. And yes, anyway, Paul in the chat, you got to model them, Alison. No, I'm not going to model my socks. I'm actually not wearing any socks. I did model them in so before Christmas. So we have an affiliate partnership with cufflinks.com, and they sent me some actually really nice dress socks before Christmas to try out. So go and check out that video. I'll link it somewhere. They're really nice, sort of classy Star Trek dress socks. Like they're sort of black with. They came in a set. I don't know if they're still available. They came in a set. Red, yellow, blue, and they have like little colored deltas all over them, and they're really classy. Those ones I did model, so you can check those ones out. Anyway, they're there, and yes, Paul in the chat and Wardogheim Spocks. So yes, that's show and tell this week. So right, listen, let's go and check out the poll. If you are here in the chat with me, you have a couple more minutes. I'm gonna head over to Twitter and see what's going on. I'm disappointed at the lack of write-ins, actually. I think there'd be a lot of good things about being a Borg. Okay, so the best part of being a Borg, your choices were you never run out of friends, mandatory sleep, you can tell I'm a mother, built-in 5G or high-speed Wi-Fi, whatever you want, and the best flash mobs, which I know is very like 10 years ago, but whatever. Could you imagine though? The coordination. Right, so on Twitter, currently in the lead with 61.5, whopping 61.5% of the vote is built-in 5G. It's pretty good. You wouldn't have to worry about subscription service. And then tied for third place, you have with 15.4% of the vote each. You never run out of friends and mandatory sleep. And then in last place with only 7.7% of the vote is the best flash mobs. Yeah, I knew not a lot of people were going to go for the flash mobs one because that's very like, what is that, mid 2000s. Christoph Christoph in the chat says the best part of being a Borg would be health and getting away from humanity in its current state. Yeah, the healthcare would be great. Free on tap healthcare, and they could just fix whatever ails you for free and fast too. No waiting, no having to get a referral. It'd be like, oh, you fell down and broke your arm. Oh, well, let's just beam you back to the cube and sort you out right now. It's ideal. Um, I think I mean I think the thing that people get hung up on, and this is the same with zombies. The thing that people get hung up on is the whole assimilation process. You know, that doesn't seem like that fun. But I think once you're over there, it's pretty good. Anyway, okay, let's end the poll here in YouTube chat. Okay, so here in the YouTube chat, you said with 52% of the vote, you never run out of friends. 5G. 8% said the best flash mobs, and 4% said the mandatory sleep. Yeah, I'm for the never running out of friends, although it could be a bit of a horror story if it ended up. Could you imagine if the Borg hive mind was actually just like an extremely intrusive version of Twitter all the time? I'd like to think that they had better, sensitivity protocols in place, but you don't know. Anyway, thank you for voting in the poll. Um, yeah, David David in the chat says not unlike being a vampire. Any of the like supernatural things, even a werewolf. Well, the whole like depending on the type of werewolf, it's a conversation for a different time. Anyway, yeah, if you were like one of the first to be a zombie, or if you were like, you know, one of the first to be a vampire, that'd be good. I don't fancy the whole being chased down and cornered and being forcibly turned into a thing, but you know, once you're there. Side note, if you haven't seen, I can never remember the name of the movie, Last Man on Earth, I think it's called, where the zombies are, like there's one guy left who's not a zombie. It's been remade a million times. Fantastic film, awesome ending. Go watch it. Anyway, sorry, I went on a little bit of a tangent there, which, you know, if you've ever seen this show, happens sometimes. Let's wrap up the show because that is it for this week in Daily Star Trek News. Thank you very much for listening and listening to me rant, of course. Just a reminder that if you are listening to this on the podcast today, then you should come and join us on YouTube. It's much easier to see the show and tell. Plus, you get to interact with all the fine folks in the chat as well. And remember, you can find all of this week's stories, including the ones that I covered and some that I did not get to cover this week. That's all on dailystartreknews.com. We've got links to the original stories, we've got videos, more pictures, and some of the sort of weekly special stuff that we do that doesn't make it into this show, which is, you know, trivia and history and our events listing as well. All of that's on dailystartreknews.com. And if you want it delivered straight to your inbox every weekday morning, you can do that too. Sign up for the Daily Star Trek newsletter at dailystartreknews.com/contact. It's totally free. We just need your email address, and you don't have to do anything else. That's very easy. Anyway, thank you again for listening. This show is produced by me, Alison Pitt, and all of today's stories were written by Chris Peterson, Marina Kravchuk, Jack Brown, T. Rick Jones, and David Powell. Today's show, of course, was supported by people like you through Patreon. You can find out more and add your support at patreon.com/Daily Star Trek News. Now, I will be back next week with more of the Star Trek news you need to know. I'm Alison Pitt. Live long and prosper. Oh. All right, guys. So listen, I'm going to take a couple minutes. I'm going to drink my coffee out of my giant mug. By the way, I don't know if you guys have seen this mug. I know it's a little show and tell. I've seen this one. I am functioning within normal parameters. I was given this mug for my birthday a couple years back by my dear, dear, dear friend Tracy, who still lives in the UK. She was my neighbor for forever, and she sent me this a couple years ago, and I love it. It's gigantic, but it's perfect. So Yeah, it's just off Amazon. You can find it on Amazon. I don't have a specific thing. Here we go. Anyway, yeah, Christoph, yeah, I do like a fake goodbye because this is the part of the show where I sort of ramble on a little bit and have like lengthy blank like soundless bits while I scroll through the chat to see what you guys have been talking about while I've been talking, which is really, really boring when you listen to it on a podcast. And I could edit it or I could not. So I end the show and then we'll keep talking. Uh, right. How is everybody today? Yes, War Dogheim. So talks about it's the Last Man on Earth. The Vincent Price version is one of the best. Yes, the Vincent Price version is the one I've seen most recently, and it is fantastic. I actually, it's really funny because I always say I don't like zombie movies, but there are specific zombie movies that I like a lot, and one of them is The Last Man on Earth. The other one is Evil Dead 2. Well, 1 and 2 as a piece together. Oh, has everybody gone see Doctor Strange yet? If you haven't, go see it. If you know, you know. If you know, you know. I won't say any spoilers because like the whole movie is just spoilers, and I don't want to spoil anything because you like the whole time I was just sitting there elbowing my poor long suffering boyfriend because I was like, oh my god. So it's really, really amazing, especially for Star Trek fans. It's cool. Anyway, yeah, it was yeah, go see it. Anyway, that was why. Okay, that I went. So where I went was Borg, to The Last Man on Earth, to zombie movies, to The Evil Dead, to Multiverse of Madness. The reason I went that way is because Multiverse of Madness is directed by Sam Raimi, who also directed The Evil Dead and The Evil Dead 2, starring Bruce Campbell. Bruce Campbell has a cameo because he has a cameo in every Sam Raimi movie. That's not a spoiler. And if you ever like zombie movies, or if you're ever just a fan of film production, The Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2 are like one of the, as far as I'm concerned, one of the best examples of a really gifted filmmaker, just really who could never do anything else. You have to watch Evil Dead and then watch Evil Dead 2, which is basically the same thing but better. It's hard to explain. And then also as the final set piece, go and read Bruce Campbell's autobiography, which is called, I believe, If Chins Could Kill. It goes into how they made that film, and it's very excellent. Anyway, sorry. BC points out also I Am Legend and the Omega Man are also different versions of The Last Man on Earth. And yeah, anyway. Right. So I'm gonna scroll through a little bit, but then we are gonna. I'm just gonna. It's my show. I can do whatever I want. I'm gonna talk about Picard, and I'm gonna talk about Strange New Worlds. So yeah, if you don't want spoilers, maybe flip off a little. Well, just I'll let you know. I'm glad to see that some of you have found those phone wallpapers, which I call phone posters because my brain doesn't work sometimes. Yeah, I have the Enterprise one with Pike on horseback. That one's beautiful because I haven't decided who my favorite character is yet. Because uh, right now, Strange New Worlds is doing a really great job of making it an ensemble piece, which I love. Brian in the chat mentions, and it's a very good point. As an introvert, I wouldn't be a huge fan of the hive mind, the Borg hive mind. It would be too noisy. I could get that. I think that I'd like to think that maybe they would understand that anxiety though, and maybe, give you a little quiet space. Does everybody in the Borg, does everybody think the same thing all the time? Or like does every Borg drone hear all the thoughts of everybody all at once? Or do they just all hear what they need to hear all at once? Or do they just hear nothing unless somebody's talking to them? Like the Borg Queen. Ugh, God, I guess I'm gonna talk about Picard. All right. All right. So I'm just gonna talk about Picard for a second. So if you've been watching this show for a while, you probably know that I was not the biggest fan of Picard season one. I thought up until about episode 4, I was really, really looking. I really loved it. I loved the concepts that they were bringing up. My central issue with Picard season 1 was that it was too large of a story. Like, I was really hoping that we were gonna get an examination of kind of like Measure of a Man, but, expanded a little bit more, like, after some because there was kind of a great allegory of the androids going nuts on Mars and the massacre on Mars was kind of a great, allegory there of, you know, the Federation then extended the ban on artificial life forms across the galaxy. I mean, they essentially shut down an entire species of people um, because of that incident. And there's a lot of allegories to how, especially in the United States, we treat people of the Muslim faith. So I was really looking forward to kind of them examining how we talk about humanity, especially in the face of huge tragedy. And, I was kind of hoping that Picard would like help reintegrate. And it ended up being kind of a weird sci-fi extragalactic aliens. Like it ended up being it ended up being weird space worms as opposed to like an examination of our society. And so the end of season 1 was tremendously disappointing for me. So I was not that hopeful. Even so, the first episode of season 2, I actually was very hopeful because I was really looking forward to them examining what happens when somebody who is your enemy, um, who has been defeated, then comes to you and asks you to be included in your group. That applies to schoolyard bullies and it applies to the Borg. And so I was really the first episode implied that they were going to talk about that. But then I had my hopes dashed in the first season, so I was not excited. And then, season 2 actually kept surprising me every week. And they actually really, I think they dealt with the Borg in a really mature way. And they managed to tie off a lot of loops that I'd always had problems with in TNG and some of the films afterwards. I know First Contact is a great film. I hated the invention of the Borg Queen. I thought that was the worst development for a Star Trek villain that ever happened because the reason the Borg were scary was because they were this drone hive mind and it didn't matter. Like you could, as long as there was one Borg drone alive, you're screwed, right? That's why the Borg were scary. And then when there was a queen, it's like, well, now you're just any alien, totalitarian race, et cetera, et cetera. I think that Picard season 2 very skillfully helped redeem that development. They've brought them back around because there was no going back unless you were going to pull a Kelvin timeline and like just retcon them out of existence. There was no going back. Once the Borg Queen was introduced, that's what it is. But now, um, putting them in the one scenario in which the Borg Queen, who was the last remaining Borg, could have their mind changed and build the Borg into something else. They really skillfully set that situation up and gave us what I think is a really interesting evolution of that species. And we're still going to have to grapple with the question. I don't know if they'll do it on screen, but we'll still have to grapple with the question that these people were our conquerors. I don't know how else you want to say it. They relentlessly pursued humans across the galaxy and tried to kill them until they were finally defeated. And now they want to join with us. What does that look like? What does that mean? How does society treat them? Because we're not talking about XBs, which we already know were horribly discriminated against. We're talking about actual active Borg. Totally different. So I think that from that perspective, that ending was very good. I'm sad to say goodbye to Alison Pitt, no relation, uh, uh, Rios, Santiago Cabrera. I think Corey's probably gone. Isa Briones. We're probably not going to see Will Wheaton again. And I think I think those characters are gone now. I think they actually confirmed that. Um, but I also, this is the first time in a long time that I've seen a television series that finished their story and ended it in a good place and didn't try to like squeeze one more season out of it. So I think they did the right thing by setting it was going to be a three season series. This was the end of the second, and I am now actually looking forward to uh, season 3. So there's my thoughts on Picard. Yes, looking in the chat, yes, Evan Evagora is also leaving. I actually was not hopeful about him coming back, but I'm glad that he did. And I forgot to talk. So I've spent this whole time talking about the Borg. Um, the other thing that I absolutely loved about this whole season of Picard was that it effectively was and TNG. So from the first time we saw the next gen, one of the first people we saw was Q. And we're gonna end, and we've ended on that too. I think that this series was kind of up what was like a really effective platonic love story. I loved the moments at the end. Um, I can't remember his words, but Q saying that Picard was important to him. That's why it was because he was important, and really that brings that because in season 1, remember I complained that the story was too big. Uh, Q saying those things to Picard, very very small and personal, and that was wonderful to me. And of course, there were some really great moments. In the finale when Laris, not Laris, the other one, Talon, is saying to Picard, like, you're not responsible for me. I make my own decisions. They weren't just talking to Picard; they were talking to us. It was really, really. I thought that I have at times in the past few years with some of the writing on Star Trek thought that it was came across like it was written by 20-year-olds, like it was written by people without a lot of life experience. And this especially towards the end of this series, you could tell it was written um, from a very emotionally mature place, which is something that I appreciate a lot as a person who's a little older in life. And yeah, I really loved it, and I was so happy that I was not disappointed at the end of the season. So that's all I'll say. I'm not going to do like a deep dive or reviews or anything like that, but those are the things that really stood out to me. I hope that if you haven't had a chance yet to go and see Picard, maybe you were burned in the first season like I was, give it a chance. There's some really good storytelling in there. Um, and all I will say, well, not all I'll say, Strange New Worlds is amazing from start to finish. It was just exactly what I wanted. Um, Honestly, I can barely even remember the plot, and it doesn't matter, and I wanna watch it over again. What we got were fun moments, and we got some emotional moments, and it was a good start to finish first contact scenario. There was, you know, fun adventure, bright colors, and that sort of both simultaneous like fun and also some gravitas towards the situation at hand. Uh, Honestly, a really really amazing opening episode of a series. I completely 100% agree with all of the all of the reviews on Rotten Tomatoes and all of the the audience reviews, and I totally agree with what basically everybody who's been ranting and raving about it online. I've known people who are casual Star Trek fans who were like, "Go and watch this immediately. It's great," and I agree with it. So well done to the whole team that did that because um, tremendous amount of promise there. I'm looking forward to the rest of the season. Anyway, right. Have I missed anything else? I'm gonna quickly scroll back to the top since I've ranted a lot. Um, Peter H. mentions about Dr. Mohammed Noor, Biotrekkie with the Admiral. He released a blooper video. So if you've been watching that series, if you enjoy his conversations with Jane Brooke, go and check that out. He's got some bloopers up. They came out this week. Let's see. For those of you who did see Star Trek Strange New Worlds, how gigantic are Pike's quarters? Like he's got a whole mess hall in his quarters. And it's all very, very shiny. All of it's very shiny. Honestly, it's like the Kelvin timeline and TOS like had a baby. But I'm alright with it. Some of you commenting that we had some glitches in the stream. I apologize for that. I'm sorry about that. Honestly, probably what it is that the past 2 weeks in this house, I've been, well, not me, but we've been building new gaming PCs for the children because they were in desperate need of upgrades. So both of the children have been putting PCs together, and there's probably, honestly, probably a little strain on my Wi-Fi network right now. There's a lot of games to be downloaded, a lot of Windows updates. Like I said, it has been a while. They were way overdue for PC upgrades. Man, and listen, so I'm a Mac person. I used to be a PC person. I am now a Mac person just because I just like to just get my stuff done with, I am very, very jealous of all of the internal LED craziness, whatever. They don't have optical drives anymore. There's no optical drives anymore. There's no hard drives anymore. They're water cooling their processors. It's a different planet. Anyway. All right. All right. Thank you very much, everybody, for being here. War Dog Heim says he's got a freaking fireplace in space. It's probably Synthafire or whatever. It's probably not real. Holographic fire. Anyway, yeah, I'm going to leave it there. Thank you very much to everybody for sticking around. And yeah, don't forget, coming up in just under a month, June 5th, we're going to have a special episode of this live stream where the whole team's going to be here. It's going to be fun. So get your questions ready and mark your calendars for June the 5th. Yeah, should be a ton of fun. Thank you again for watching, for chatting, and for participating. And we will see you again next week. Bye, everyone.